Various parties have levelled allegations that some unacceptable transactions that took place during the tenure of the previous government are now taking place under the Good Governance government.
They cite the agreement reached between the Ministry of Development Strategies and International Trade and a US firm as one example of such actions.
Speaking to Newsfirst today, Secretary to the Ministry Chandani Wijewardena noted that this agreement was signed after obtaining cabinet approval.
The agreement between the Ministry of Development Strategies and International Trade and Sandler Travis and Rosenberg, also known as STNR, was signed by Secretary to the Ministry Chandani Wijewardena and J. Nicole Bivens Collinson, the President of International Trade and Government Relations at STNR. According to Chandani Wijewardena, the proposal regarding this agreement was submitted to the Cabinet Subcommittee on Economic Management on the 25th of May. She also revealed that cabinet approval was granted for this agreement on the 14th of June. The Secretary to the Ministry of Development Strategies and International Trade added that it was the Sri Lankan Embassy in the United States that conducted research and nominated STNR as a suitable firm. According to Chandani Wijewardena, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was made aware of this agreement when the proposal was submitted to Cabinet and also when assistance was sought from the Sri Lankan Embassy in the United States. The main aim of reaching an agreement with STNR, according to the Secretary to the Ministry, was to broaden the export base in USA as well as obtain tax concessions granted by USA to countries emerging out of a civil conflict. She also notes that this agreement was reached purely on economic reasons, adding that subjects such as politics and reconciliation are not covered through the agreement. It should be noted that the proposal, which received cabinet approval on the 14th of June, was signed in a short span of 2 weeks. Although the agreement came into effect on the 1st of July 2016, the agreement itself was signed on the 29th of July. According to the agreement, STNR will represent Sri Lanka in Washington, D.C. before U.S. government agencies and the U.S. Congress, focusing efforts on educating officials on the peace process in Sri Lanka, exploring options for great economic and commercial ties between the USA and Sri Lanka, as well as identifying and expanding options for market access of Sri Lankan goods into the United States. STNR has also been tasked with building better relations between Sri Lanka and political parties and members of the US Senate, as well as aid in development of agendas in order to assist visiting Sri Lankan delegations. The Ministry of Development Strategies and International Trade has agreed to pay a sum of $630,000 for the services of STNR over 1.5 years.
If there is a real need, then filling that real need, the government must have its empowerment to do so. But in this particular case, this kind of activity had been done for years by our Sri Lanka's diplomatic mission. Ambassadors like Jayantha Dhanapala, Mr. Palihakkara and others have done this activity so well in the past. But in the last regime, both the governor of the central bank and the supervising member of the foreign ministry resorted to this particular action as a strategy. Now that was totally criticized by civil society and also those in power today in this government. So that is why I find it very hard to believe those who 18 months or more before criticize the last government for doing that is continuing to do the same thing. Now if you take the diplomatic missions and our foreign service, they have capable people even today. If they are required to do something, they will put their best heart and soul.
Meanwhile, a national daily reported recently that plans are being made to pay a sum of $2 million to obtain the legal expertise of a foreign legal firm. According to the report, the law firm is tasked with drafting new laws as well as revising existing laws pertaining to the fiscal and monetary sector, as well as restructuring laws pertaining to real estate, property, intellectual property and taxes. Meanwhile, the Sunday Times reported on the 30th of August 2015 that a sum of $6.5 million was paid to an American firm on the 9th and 10th of September 2014 for lobbying purposes. According to the report, the money was released by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka based on the written request of then monitoring MP Sajin Gunawardena. The agreement signed between the Ministry of Development Strategies and International Trade and the US firm STNR was also taken up for discussion during the Face the Nation program Yard last night.
The relationship between the foreign countries and Sri Lanka was at stake. We all know. But at this moment, every country is coming forward to help Sri Lanka.
Then why such an agreement?
At this juncture, why do you need this? See, this is like what Sachin was Gunawardhan is doing, what he did, and today is before bribery, before FCID, all that. Then people were accusing, in that government there was a Malik, there was a Basil Rajapaksa, and Sajin was who were doing it. But you have a Malik doing it now. This is the difference now. As people who voted for good governance, we are ashamed the way things are happening in this present government.
Why isn't agreements of this sort, like signing an agreement with a private agency in the United States to lobby against the wishes of most of the people, because we know for a fact that international relations are now somewhat strengthened between the West, and in a situation like that, why must the government go ahead and sign such an agreement under closed doors?
Like very many other instances, I do not see any justification in rushing into areas like this. There is no necessity for us to go and repeat the things that the previous government did. If it was good enough for Sachin Gunawardhan to engage the services of some foreign agency, but how do we look at it today? We look at it today as a corrupt practice to take money from the government in an illegal way. So when a thing like that happens under this government, how do you want us to look at it? In a different way? And why should we look at it in a different way? When we obviously have an example where we have been accusing people for having done wrong things, when somebody is doing the same thing, repeating the thing, why should we look at it in a different way?
Mr. Saleh, why is the government really holding the people at stake when they want to sign agreements of this sort, through a ministry in particular?
Actually, I saw the Prime Minister making a statement again in Parliament saying everything will be informed to Parliament. But when you ask this question, is the Parliament aware of this? This is not that what the people wanted. People wanted to know everything that is happening. People wanted the right thing to happen. People have gone through hell